Trump in rally mode in Colorado. He had some gems last night. Joe Biden with maybe the worst campaign sell I've ever heard in my life, and a video that, well, it's going to make you feel good about everything in the world. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. It's no secret in the world of politics that Trump is a phenom on the campaign trail. Look, if you're one of these people who hates Trump, I get that. I hated Obama, but I realized Barack Obama was a political phenom. He got out there, he could get the crowds fired up, he had people passing out, they were cheering, he's filling up stadiums. Even when I couldn't stand the guy, which is, well, that's still today, the guy was a phenom. Trump is a phenom on the campaign trail, and he's always been famous for these rallies. Even back to the GOP primary, he packs these stadiums. People were cheering. It's a big rock concert. You've heard me say this stuff many times. But here's the issue now for the Democrat Party. They're tearing each other apart. It's not just that Donald Trump's rallies are so big. Now you have a contrast. We are, 2 days removed from that NBC debate the other night where 19 million people watched the Democrats have a gigantic slime ball fight on national television, and they looked awful. And I mean, nobody, not even the lefty journalists, came out of that debate and said, well, I got to be honest, our party looks really good. Nobody. I mean, you had a couple people say, well, this candidate looked good or that candidate looked good. Not a single person in the country said the Democrat Party really has things figured out. And now you're always going to be getting these contrasts with Donald Trump at the rallies and people were cheering and yelling and it's just this big old time. Look, it's going to matter. And they have nobody but themselves to blame. I'm going to consistently say that because it's true. When you lose an election, when you lose at anything in life, when you lose your job, maybe one of you just lost it. Maybe you've lost it in the past. When you lose the wife, when you lose something, when you stink at something, you must look in the mirror and self-assess. And that's the least popular thing to say to somebody because it's uncomfortable. Nobody likes to do that. My dad called me fat once. You know what? I went home and looked in the mirror and I was like, gosh, I'm kind of fat. It's not comfortable. Doesn't feel good. Guess what? I was in the gym the next day. It's what's best for you. And the Democrat Party, instead of doing that after 2016, they blamed it all on Hillary and Russia and we'll just impeach him and figure it out. And now the exam is tomorrow and they haven't studied and they're all, they're screwed. And they know it. And they're panicking. Trump went off on the Oscars last night.
For anything, and they still haven't figured it out. They have not figured it out. But look at all that press. Look at all that press. By the way, how bad were the Academy Awards this year? Did you see it? And the winner is a movie from South Korea. What the hell was that all about? We got enough problems with South Korea, with trade. On top of it, they give him the best movie of the year. Was it good? I don't know. You know, I'm looking for where let's get Gone with the Wind. Can we get Gone with the Wind back, please? Sunset Boulevard. So many great movies. The winner is from South Korea. I thought it was best foreign film, right? Best foreign movie. No, it was did this ever happen before? And then you have Brad Pitt. I was never a big fan of his. He got up and said Little Wise Guy statement. Little Wise Guy. He's a little wise guy. Anyway, but we're doing well. But here, I'll just show this real quick, right?
Trump's very good at that, what he just did right there. Do you think Donald Trump actually gives a crap about the Oscars? Not very likely. Now, when Trump does something like tweet about sports, Trump genuinely cares about sports. He is historically, long before he was in politics, would always tweet about sports or talk about sports. That's who he is. Does he care about the Oscars? No. But Trump is great at these rallies and pouring gasoline on the fire. And every single person, most likely, in that stadium that night, people on the right, myself included, they've grown to hate the entertainment industry because the entertainment industry hates us. So if you want to get a good cheer out of people, get them to start booing stuff, doesn't hurt to take that shot. Well, you did not think Donald Trump was going to give a rally in Colorado and not bring up the fact that Mike Bloomberg had kind of rough night, and Amy Klobuchar, rough doesn't really describe what she had.
Mike didn't do well last night. I was going to send him a note saying it's not easy doing what I do, is it? Not easy. It's not easy, Mike. Not easy for any of them. No, Mike didn't do too well. He went way down. It's all right. Mini Mike. How about KLOBUCHAR? Did you see her? She choked. She choked. She choked. She couldn't breathe. Alfred E. Newman looked at her and said something slightly derogatory. And she said, "Are you accusing me of being dumb?" Who would make a statement like that? Because that's really what he was doing, but he doesn't want to say that. No, how about that? Are you saying I'm dumb? That was the end of her campaign in my book, you know. You don't say that. Even if it's true, you don't say that.
The dude is a showman and an absolute savage. You have to admire him just piling on KLOBUCHAR. KLOBUCHAR right now is clearly the also-ran in the race. I mean, she's barely hanging on. The other night, she has the worst night of her political career. And then the president of the United States stands up in front of thousands of people and just slaughters her. Well, Trump is still salty about being impeached, understandably so. He brought up the fact, well, you should have impeached Obama too, and he's not really wrong.
Remember President Obama 28 times? He said, keep your doctor, keep your plan. Keep your doctor, keep your plan. Keep your doctor, keep your plan, right? It was a lie. We should impeach him. We should impeach him. Impeach Obama. Get him out of office. No, nobody thought of that. We caught him in a lie. 28 times at least he's on record. We caught him in a lie, but nobody said let's impeach him.
It's not wrong there either. You heard the President of the United States, Barack Obama, several times get up and make a promise that was false. And it wasn't, a promise about this little tax here. Or, well, we're going to do this over in Poland. It was a promise about your health care and my health care. But, he's Saint Obama with no scandals. Now, let's talk for a little bit about parodies and trolls and things like that. Look, a lot of people don't even know what that stuff means. All that matters, all you need to know is in the gigantic and important now social media world that exists out there, there are all these extremely funny people who put together these different memes and different little videos, and some of them are absolutely hilarious. The trouble for the left is, and I would be honest if this was not the case, almost all of the hilarious stuff is on the right. And I realize I know what you're thinking right now. Jesse, you know everything. You're the wisest person ever. And yes, that's true. But I actually don't have any idea how this came to be, how we got ownership of all the funny stuff. Bloomberg just put out some stupid billboard in Phoenix, I believe it was, that said Donald Trump likes his steak burnt. I'm not kidding. That was their jab. I mean, that's not funny. That's not creative. Meanwhile, Trump's troll army is putting out things like this.
What's your name?
Name.
Now, he's supposed to look like Donald Trump, but he's actually much too small looking. You are really small. Are you having a good time tonight?
Night.
Where's your daddy? And your mommy, right? Do you want to go back? Do you want to go back to them, or do you want to stay with Donald Trump?
Jump.
Sorry, that's funny. I know it's immature, but guess what? I'm immature. Lastly, let us not forget that contrast that rally with the current state of the Democrat Party. Bernie Sanders is the presumptive nominee, and there is panic, and that is putting it nicely amongst the pundit class of the Democrat Party.
With 6 days to go, some are sounding the alarm.
Bernie Sanders wins New Hampshire.
This comes after Sanders won the popular vote
in Iowa.
I am scared to death.
The freak out you will see. Progressives want to march the aristocrats to the guillotine.
There's real panic.
There's panic.
It's going to be the end of days.
There were executions in Central Park. I'm not happy. You're going to be a miserable president, and I might have been one of the ones getting executed. Bernie, you're full of it.
Who's the front runner?
Pete Buttigieg upset Bernie Sanders in both states.
The story is how much ground he's lost.
The story is Amy Klobuchar coming in third.
That had to be a disappointment.
And they're starting to think, could this really happen?
I don't understand how Bernie is considered a frontrunner.
He's popular.
He literally won the most votes.
Bernie Sanders
Is flying away. He's about to clinch this thing.
is a phenomenon. We are their worst nightmare.
He is, and it's fantastic. All right, we got video columnist for the Daily Caller, Stephanie Hamill, one of our favorites, coming up. Hang on. Joining us now is a favorite of the audience, not so much me, video columnist with the Daily Caller, Stephanie Hamill. Stephanie, you have some Bloomberg numbers after the debate the other night. What are they?
It's not looking good for Bloomberg. As you know, he went in there thinking that money can buy him love. And it certainly helps in campaigns, if you know what I mean. Jesse, you ran for office one time, and obviously money makes a big difference. He poured in some $400 million. He was paying social media influencers to retweet about him and text their friends. I mean, he's handing out pretty good money. And I also heard this campaign staff are kind of rolling in the dough when it comes to campaigns, because as you know, campaigns really don't pay that well sometimes. So either way, I'm looking at this article here. It's Morning Consult, and they said that the former New York City mayor is losing first choice support. It says the billionaire's net favorability fell 20 points, suffering the most among moderate Democrats. So he went into this debate thinking that he had this in the bag. He certainly wasn't prepared. This is a guy who's not used to hearing people around him tell him no, right? Like, who's going to tell this billionaire no?
Well, I have this theory, Stephanie. I've had this theory that I think he's going to be the nominee. And I think that the debate is not going to matter within 2-3 days when, he gets this debate. Obviously they landed some solid torpedoes into his side, but give him another, 2-3 days, maybe a week. He's still on the air and no one else is. But am I wrong about that? Did they severely wound this guy's image? I just assumed he was going to be the moderate alternative to Bernie.
Wait a minute. You think that he's going to be the Democratic nominee?
I do. I think that he has an unlimited amount of money. I think we are heading to a brokered convention, and at that brokered convention, where it will eventually be decided by superdelegates, all of whom who will have been paid off in one form or another by Mike Bloomberg. I do. I still think he's going to be the nominee. You think I'm nuts, don't you?
I don't think you're nuts. I mean, I guess it's an interesting theory, and it's not like he should be pushed aside and forgotten about, and that there is no possibility for him to become the Democratic nominee. But if you look at the organic support for someone like Bernie Sanders, who's leading in all the polls right now, and even though Sanders has raised more money than all of the Democratic candidates combined, and if you think about it, it's small donations. These are the people who are going to canvass for him, volunteer for him, and actually make it out to vote for him. As for Bloomberg, I wouldn't say that there's a ton of enthusiasm there. I think people liked him because they have a choice here. They can support the candidate that they actually really like for whatever policies that they support, the socialist policies of Bernie Sanders, or they can support the person that they think has the best chance against President Trump. So I think in a general, of course, Bloomberg would be a better candidate than Bernie Sanders, because the rest of the country, moderate Democrats, independents, and Republicans are never going to support a socialist candidate like Sanders, because they know what his policies would do to our country. As for Bloomberg, we don't really know where he stands. I'd say that if I were to put a label on it, I'd call it China first. That's where he made a lot of his money. He didn't even want to call the Chinese president a dictator when he was asked about it by a liberal host. So, I mean, there's a stark difference between a candidate like President Trump, who has made it clear that America first is his priority. And as for Bernie Sanders versus Bloomberg, I think I'm going to get back to that because I just went off on a tangent. I think that there's real organic support for Sanders. Bloomberg is buying his way. A lot of people don't really know about his background and his policies and some of the things that he supported in the past, and they don't realize that Bloomberg's former comments and the policies he supported don't really align with the Democratic Party. I mean, if you look at the last debate, Elizabeth Warren went after him with the horse face comments, the women, NDAs, et cetera. And so he is exactly what the Democratic Party claims to be against. So it's really hard for me to imagine that they would get behind him. Yeah, he's for climate change now, and yeah, he supports all of these policies. But just a few years ago, he was telling a different story.
Let me ask you something. As a woman, I need to ask you this. Which part of that, or did any of it bother you when you, now, none of that was surprising to you about Mike Bloomberg calling someone a horse-faced lesbian, or the fact that he has some NDAs, because who knows, he slapped someone on the rear end in the office or something like that. You're a woman in the corporate world. You're obviously a successful professional woman. Did any of that make you think less of him? I'm not saying you're a big fan beforehand, or did you just kind of think that's baked in the cake for a snobby New York billionaire who thinks he's a god?
I'm not offended by those type of comments, but Bloomberg is the type who cries about everything that President Trump says, and he's a pearl clutcher and pretends he's some sort of moral compass for this country. So it just shows how hypocritical and how he's just not an authentic person, if you will, because he's constantly scolding and lecturing other people. He thinks he can do it better. So yeah, I'm going to look down at him because he pretends to be something that he's not. If he was honest about it and was just like normal about it and said it was a joke and I'm sorry, it was a bad joke, then I wouldn't really care. But I am offended by it because exactly what he said, no one would give President Trump a break on. And they still talk about some of the remarks President Trump has made in the past. So again, I'm not worried about what people are saying per se. I am worried about what they're doing and what type of policies they want to implement in this country. Bloomberg is the definition of nanny state. He wants to take that to the national level. Look at what he did in New York. He wanted to, ban big gulps. He wants to let you know how much soda you can have because he thinks that the government is smarter than you. Look, I eat pretty healthy, but if I want a giant soda, I'm going to go drink a giant soda because I've managed my calories for the day. He's the one who was telling restaurants that they need to put a calorie count on their menus. Look, when I go out to eat, I don't care how many calories on the menu because I've been working out and I've been having a balanced meal, for the rest of the week. So, and what was the other thing? Breast milk for mothers. He had at the hospitals, he wanted the mothers to be put on a list if they wanted formula for their babies. So this is like craziness. And these are some of the policies that we're starting to talk about that a lot of people had no idea that he was supporting. I don't think the regular moderate Democrat wants somebody telling them how big their sodas can be.
Well, you're certainly not going to look down on him because if memory serves me, you two are about the same height, but that's a story for another day. I say Joe Biden drops out of the race after South Carolina, after he loses South Carolina. Is that stupid?
I don't know. I'm not sure that he would drop out. And I'm kind of predicting a Biden rebound. But I don't think he's going to be the Democrat.
What?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to just fade away that fast. I think Biden isn't ready to give up. And as we learn a little bit more about Bloomberg, I think that will give Biden an advantage. I think everyone's giving Bloomberg too much credit. Yeah, he's paying for the ads so much so that you're seeing them everywhere. You see them in your bathroom mirror. You see them on your phone all day. You hear them in your head. They're everywhere. And I get it. But I think the Democrats aren't going to let Bloomberg get away with this one.
Stephanie Hamill, video columnist for the Daily Caller. Thank you for giving us a little time today.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, Joe Biden. I don't know if this is an effective campaign pitch, but I think maybe it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Hang on, I'll tell you. Well, in the all-time history of worst campaign pitches, Joe Biden, I'd love to say this is the worst I've ever seen, but honestly, now that I give it some thought, he probably owns the top 5. I mean, the guy is just not very good at this. We've had this conversation a million times. Joe Biden is not a prime timer. Joe Biden is never going to be president. Joe Biden was never a prime timer. He was a just backbench senator nobody had ever heard of from Delaware. As anonymous as a United States senator could be, that's how anonymous Joe Biden was. Until Barack Obama needed somebody old, white, and had a lot of foreign policy experience, so he picked Joe Biden to balance out his ticket. Then he lounges as the VP for 8 years, and now everybody think he magically morphs into this superstar. The Joe Biden you see today, that's not old age. Joe Biden, he sucks. He's not very good at campaigning. He's never been very good at campaigning. The only time I've ever seen him do anything of significance on the national stage is when he gave Paul Ryan a wedgie during that vice president debate during the disastrous Mitt Romney presidential run. So in Joe Biden's latest and greatest campaign highlights, here's his pitch to get you excited and go out and vote for Joe.
If anything changed in my health, making it incapable for me to fully exert all the energy and mental acuity that was needed to be done, then I give you my word, I would not run again.
First of all, that's not an exciting pitch. Let me give you youngins some advice if you're ever thinking about running for office out there, and you should. We need good people running for office. Don't ever say that, ever. If something happens to me and I can't do it, I'll just resign. 1, you're probably going to forget about that. 2, politicians lie about that stuff all the time. And 3, nobody willingly gives up power, definitely not egomaniacal politicians who should be lounging on a beach somewhere and instead they're running for president. You're only running for president if you're Joe Biden, if you have a narcissistic personality disorder, just like everyone else running for United States president. That's what you are. So you're telling me someone's supposed to believe that you're going to walk into the White House, you are going to be the most powerful man on planet Earth for 4 years, and then because a couple people think you're not quite with it, you're going to go, you know what? You're right. That's it for me. Oh, that's a bunch of crap. No, he's not. He's not going to leave. Once you get him out in there, you can't ever get him out. Why do you think we have these senators and congressmen that have been there for 30, 40 years, and they're popping Alzheimer drugs right before they run to the House floor to vote on bills that affect your life? That make you feel good? Yeah, I didn't just make that up. That's actually real. And let me tell you, people, those are the stories I'm allowed to tell you about. The stories behind the scene, they're a lot worse than you can imagine. Don't let these people run your life. Trust nobody, shrink the government. Here's Joe Biden's plan for illegal immigration. This should go over well with middle America.
By the way, nobody, and some of you are going to get mad at me with this, but nobody is going to be deported in my first 100 days until we get through the point that we find out the only rationale for deportation will be whether or not you've committed a felony while in the country.
We're not going to deport people anymore? It's a crime to... This is why the Democrat Party is out of power. This is why they're going to stay out of power unless they remain sane. Unless they change and become sane. You cannot open your border. Your border is sacred. I don't care what the situation is to the south of you. You are a nation, a unique nation, even if you're like the Democrat Party and hate the United States of America. No country can possibly survive if you just throw open the borders and invite everybody into the country. And you certainly can't do what Joe Biden just did and send a signal on national television to everybody who wants to come here illegally that, hey, if Joe gets elected, I better just sneak on in and then I'm not going to get deported. It's like slapping a gigantic open for business sign on the southern border. You can't do that. These people are bonkers. Again, let me circle back to something I've told you before. Even the worst Bolshevik commie scumbags in the history of mankind were not open borders, because your country can't survive if you're open borders. Nobody in the history of mankind that I have been able to find, as far as a major political party goes, has openly campaigned on throwing open the borders of their own nation. Nobody. It doesn't happen, except for the modern day American left. I tell you what. But they only have themselves to blame. I mean, listen to Elizabeth Warren. And by the way, before we go to this clip, hold on. Understand something. Democrat messaging on climate change is horrific, not just because Democrats are insane, although they are insane. Democrat messaging on climate change is horrific because the climate change solutions are all horrific. They're all anti-human. They're all anti-job. They're all anti-economy. As soon as they start to dig into the specifics of them, you heard Bernie's idiotic fracking ban the other night. Even if you could get somebody to say, well, I mean, I believe in man-made climate change. Well, what do you want to do about it? Oh, we're just going to wipe out 100,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. Wait, what? We can't do that. But Elizabeth Warren, again, remember, she's in the Beto phase where you're just chucking crap against the wall. She thinks AOC's insane Green New Deal doesn't go far enough.
What I want to see us do, I hadn't thought about it in terms of that specific part. What I want to see us do is get off an oil economy, and not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. I want to see us move entirely to green. And let me say on this, I not only support a Green New Deal, I don't think it goes far enough. I also have a Blue New Deal, because we got to be thinking about our oceans as well that we need to protect.
Yeah, that woman's never going to be president. But you know what? The Democrat Party only has themselves to blame. Remember, this whole Green New Deal insanity that involves things like changing every building in the United States of America, I'm not making that up. This insanity started with Alexandria Ocasio or how the heck do you say her? AOC, shut up, Cortez, that's her name. Throwing up the Green New Deal on her website. And immediately the political world imploded, and all these people were running for Democrat president. And because they all have to try to appeal to this psychopathic leftist base, they were all like, oh, I like that. That sounds like a good plan. And the actual plan is the most horrific thing ever. The left, they have taken over the Democratic Party. And now all these people like Elizabeth Warren, they feel like they have to be slaves to idiots like AOC, and it's destroyed their election chances. AOC and Ilhan Omar are out there still blasting away at the poor guy in Iowa. They're running a presidential election. You got AOC out there saying Democrat or DNC chair Tom Perez, what's happened in Iowa is a complete disgrace and someone needs to be held responsible. She's talking about Tom. Ilhan Omar came out and said, I believe it all starts from the top. These are the things that Tom should do and should have done. What are they doing, ladies and gentlemen? They're trying to take over. And here's the thing. AOC's young. Ilhan Omar is young. Nancy Pelosi can't get through a sentence. Ilhan Omar and AOC are not this flash in the pan thing. They're the future. And they are an insurgency within the Democrat Party, pulling the party to the left, forcing presidential candidates to sign on to their insane things. And they're going to be there for a long time. Not my problem. Not my circus. Not my monkeys, as the saying goes. Well, we're not quite done yet. Hang on. Well, to talk about Joe Biden and other things is the great Drew Berquist, host of This Is My Show with Drew Berquist and former counter-terror super spy type Drew. Joe Biden says that he won't seek a second term if he's not all there during the first term. Is that not the worst campaign pitch you've ever seen in your entire life?
Yeah, between that and him saying whenever it was a couple of weeks ago, talking about VP picks, identifying the fact that, hey, I'm old, I don't know if I'm going to make it through. I got to have a good one. It's not a good message to be putting out there for the mass, especially when, by the way, you're getting absolutely annihilated in the primaries.
It's not a good message. And I have a hard time wrapping my mind around the psychology of why he's still here, Drew. I know they're trying to do this, South Carolina backstop thing. We're going to rally and win in South Carolina and then sally forth. Why do this to yourself? You were a 30-year senator, vice president for 8 years. You should be golfing out there and complaining about the teenagers who drive too fast.
I couldn't agree more. And I think especially now, look, people thought maybe you are the great hope. You're the most moderate. You've got experience. Your resume's good, yada, yada. Put him in the race and he's going to do well. Okay, maybe he has that savior complex. Maybe he wants to do that. But at this point, 100%, you can see the writing on the wall. You're not going to win, bro. So it's time to step out and do what you just said. Go play golf. Go play any other old game that old people play in Florida, and just have fun with it. Enjoy it. You had a heck of a career.
Drew, this may be difficult for you to do. It's difficult for me to do, but taking away the partisanship of all of it, he's also promising not to deport illegal immigrants for the first 100 years or 100 days of his presidency. That can't possibly be a winner with swing voters, right? I mean, I know it's not a winner with you. I know it's not a winner with me. Right. I know it's probably a winner with the insane Democrats, but there's no way swing voters are like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I really don't. And again, I mean, you put it well there, how you and I might think about it, very practical, logically, and smarter than most people would, is not the main thing for the rest of America. But if you're just average Joe out there who's undecided on which party they're with, which candidate they're with, the letting them in for 100 days, not sending them back for 100 days, the Buttigieg and these other ones who are saying we're going to pay for all their health care and this, like, no, like, you got to take care of yourself. At some point, people are got to hear this message and wake up. The problem is the mainstream media is not sharing it, but it's like no one's really going to actually be on board with these plans when, you know, when you look at brass tacks and you say, okay, what's this do to me or to you and your family and your finances? There's no way you get behind that.
Speaking of no way you can get behind that, you're always seeing, I mean, AOC is out there. We love to make fun of her because, I mean, let's be honest, there's nobody easier to make fun of. Ilhan Omar is out there. Rashida Tlaib, all these people, they are out there. They're in the public eye. They have these huge social media followings, and they appear to be pulling the party to the left and making it impossible for the Democrat Party to you know, moderate at all. How do a couple of idiot freshman congresswomen get that much power? Is it just we live in too much of a social media age?
I think so. They're just loud. Like, they're loud. They're aggressive. They don't care what other people say. And if you question them, like most Dems do these days, but particularly this generation, you know, and members of the squad, is you question them and you are called every, you know, xenophobic, racist, bigot. You're called everything under the sun. And you can't, I mean, as ridiculous as their tactic is, you also, in this day of PC New America, you can't stand up for yourself. So as soon as they brandish you that, and then factor in the fact again that they are loud, it makes it really difficult. And these old establishment Democrats are having a really hard time trying to wrangle them and figure out how to get on message. Because I mean, you kind of have really within the primary right now, two primaries. You've got the moderate primary and you've got the far left primary, neither of which are good or entertaining. But you've kind of got two because this party is fractured.
Well, we're going to switch gears here because, look, I turn on a dime, Drew. My mind works so quick, it's difficult for some people to keep up. But we're going a little foreign policy, and the reason I wanted you on today was Iran. I feel like Iran was all anybody could talk about for about 15 seconds when they thought they were going to be able to hang World War III around Donald Trump's neck, and now you don't hear anything from them. Is Iran going well for us? Is it going well for them? Or is everything kosher now? What's happening over there?
Well, you know, I mean, a couple of things have happened in the last week or so since we spoke last. You know, it was mentioned that I think it's Tim Murphy. No one knows who he is or cares about him, but he's one of the senators, and he went and met, or maybe he's a congressman again. No one cares, but he went and met with senior leadership over there. You know, potentially violating the Logan Act. That whole thing came up with John Kerry, as you would remember, years and years ago. Basically trying to be I'll fix this problem here. Like, no, you won't, dude. But so that's come up and been an issue there. And then you also had Rouhani coming out and saying that they would, I can't even say it with a straight face, that they would basically obliterate us in war in a tactical situation, that they would have the leg up and would win, which is hilarious. But I think that they've gone quiet because we have been tough on them. And in reality, their people are the populace of Iran have been against this leadership, this regime over there for a long time. Now with these sanctions, things have gotten way, way worse. So they look even worse to their populace. So I think that they're on their heels. They're going to make some drastic moves here, I'm sure, just to keep in the conversation. But internally, I think they're figuring out, how do we survive this? How do we keep power? And that's the big driving force over there for them right now.
You brought up Chris Murphy, the senator, I believe he's from Connecticut, the senator from Connecticut who went over there and clearly violated the Logan Act, but thankfully he's a Democrat, therefore we know AG Barr won't be charging him with any crimes. That's another matter entirely. But so he goes over there. He does these things with Iran. Psychologize the left for me, because Obama did this too, where they shifted away from a Saudi Arabia ally policy to an Iran policy. What is this with the left, where everybody who is a traditional enemy, they're out there every single day saying, we hate you, America, we hate you, America. And the left looks at them as if, oh, well, I mean, if we just talk, we're going to be friends. Do they really believe that? Or is it the cynical Jesse part that's right, that says, well, they just kind of hate America like we do?
I think it's both. I think I think part of it is that they have a very anti-American, a very apologetic stance. I'm sorry that we're so great here in America and that our military is more powerful, our economy is better. And they really do. I mean, that was the theme under Obama, is I'm sorry that we're awesome and you're not. Let us make ourselves worse so it's a little bit more equal across the board. I mean, literally serving under him, that's how it felt every day being overseas. But with these guys, I think it's a part of that. I think there's that mindset of we don't like America or what America stands for in their eyes anymore. And then also, because we're, especially under Trump and under Bush, generally under conservatives, the peace through strength model seems rough and tough to them. And, oh, we can't talk that way. We're not the world police. Well, we kind of are. Like, we shouldn't always be, but we kind of are. So let's own that. And they think, because we're taking that approach, that they can go back and be like, no, you're misunderstood. They just don't get you in D.C. I'll talk to you. I'll present you. Let's put some lipstick on this. We'll make it look better, and then I'll be the hero, and the Democrat Party will look good. But it never works out that way.
Drew Berquist, thank you, my friend. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Take care.
All right. We've got another one of these heartwarming videos that I know the ladies love. Hang on. We're always going to bring you these soldiers coming home videos. Why? Because it's my show and I freaking love them, and it never hurts to smile a little bit, especially on a Friday night. Sit back and enjoy this before we get out of here. See a young girl, I believe she was in gym class, and dad comes home. And I'm telling you, I probably have seen 1,000 of these in my lifetime. They never stop getting to me, ever. If I had tear ducts, I'd probably be crying right now. But good for that girl, good for that father. As a father of, 2 young sons, there's just something special every day when you walk in the house at night to have your boys running up to you and hugging you and bothering you about their day and everything else, and you don't have a moment's peace. I'm thankful during my time in deployment, I didn't leave them back home because I didn't have them yet. I can't imagine leaving for 6 months to a year. So that's a pretty cool thing. We're never going to stop bringing them to you. You all be safe out there this weekend. We're going to be back to do this again on Monday. See you then.